Okay,
Yes.
let's get started. And I want to thank Ruth Shane, who's thanking her for sponsoring the program, the Yoni last night and this morning in memory of her father, Dr. Sylvan M.E. Shane. We greatly appreciate your being with us, your support in terms of learning with us all the time, and the financial support. Thank you very much. And Tamar, go 29 minutes, 42 seconds. Vakasha.
Okay, here we go. Starting off the Shavuot marathon. So the mini shiur today is based on a midrash in the what we call the Mechilta. It's a midrash halacha, specifically the Mechilta to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which doesn't really on the surface seem to have much to do with Shavuot, but I hope towards the end of my 20
Uh, Froze.
is talking about. Okay, so the context for this midrash is a pasuk in Shmot, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe, Hineni mamtir lachem. Hashem says to Moshe, I shall rain down upon you, man. So you meaning the Israelites in the wilderness, in the Midbar. Now, the Midrash is going to take a wild turn here and take us far away from man initially. And in the following statement, Rabbi Yeshua Omer, Shana Adam shtei halachot b'shacharit, v'shtei halachot ba'arvit, v'asa malacha kol hayom. If there's a person who is earning a living and who's busy at work, and he manages to eke out a little bit of learning in the morning and in the evening, ma'aleh alav ki'ilu kiyem kol haTorah kula, then the Torah considers it, or God considers it actually, as if he has kept the entirety of Torah. Now, this is essentially a statement that try and asay Toratcha keva, try to make some time for Talmud Torah. Now, what does this have to do with that verse? God says, I shall rain down man onto the Israelites. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, lo nitna Torah lidrosh, ela lochle haman. The Torah was specifically given in a context to be expounded upon only to those who partook of the man, only to those who ate of the man. Is it possible that someone can actually have the yishuv dat, the calmness in his interior to truly absorb the Torah, and if he doesn't know where his next loaf of bread is going to come from, or if he doesn't know if he's going to be able to provide clothing for his family, ha lo nitna Torah lidrosh ela.
Yeah, you're frozen, Tamar.
Yeah.
In the context where you are being provided for by an external source. In the case of Am Yisrael, the manna from heaven, where the Israelites did not have to worry about their sustenance, but their sustenance came regularly to them throughout their entire desert experience. So they were a generation that in totem could absorb the Torah, in a very specific way. Second to them, another, like a distant second, one can even say, or even, in the same ballpark, would be the Leviim, those who also don't have to work for their bread, but who have the nation providing their sustenance for them, therefore freeing them up to learn Torah. So essentially, the pshat of this midrash is that if one has the security, if one has financial security, then he is able to, or she is able to devote themselves in the interior to Talmud Torah. They're not troubled by the need to support themselves. What I would like to do in the time that we have left is to try and look at another aspect of this midrash, because in midrash omer ela darshuni, right? This midrash seems to beg, in my estimation at least, a little bit of a deeper dive into. I understand on the surface of things that we're talking about a context of an Israel that had their needs met for them, but I'd like to understand a little bit more how their needs were met for them. What is this man, and what is Rabbi Eliezer, darshan par excellence, some intimating to us in this very loaded statement, Ein nitna Torah ledarsha ela lo'ochlei haman. So let's look a little bit at what the man was in a speedy way. over the surface of the wilderness
Tamar,
lay.
Tamar, hold on a second.
Yes.
I don't think it was just me. You froze. You froze in a couple of times. Now you froze for about 15,
Am
20 seconds. So
Oh,
we just
shoot.
want
Am I
to,
back?
you're back now. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking to you. But
Okay, right. Okay.
yeah, you did freeze a
Okay.
couple of times. So just go back about 20 seconds.
Okay,
You
fine.
wanted to give a deeper dive.
Yes, okay,
Okay.
exactly. So we're just, thank you, and I'm sorry about that. Having a little bit of connection issues today. So the when the let's just go straight into the verse. When the dew lifted, there over the surface of the wilderness lay a fine and flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to each other, Manhu. What is it? They didn't know what it was. And Moses said to them, this is the bread which God has given you to eat. By the way, if I do freeze again, then please do tell me and I'll just have my tech person husband come in and try and fix this. Okay. So manhu, according to Rashi, is not just a statement of incredulity. What is this strange substance? But hachanat mazonhu. This is a prepared substance. It is something that is like as if you were to go to your freezer section and buy prepared pizza dough, right? There's not so much work that you have to do. It's already ready for you. As we learn in the context of Sefer Daniel, Vayeman lahem hamelech, that Nebuchadnezzar had prepared rations for these three Judean boys that he wanted to take under his wing, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. It's already prepared, vayeman. This is food that's prepared. And all that the Israelites had to do was to go and process it. You take your pizza dough, you roll it out, you add your toppings, voila, right? You can say that it's homemade, but
You froze, Tamar.
I don't know if she hears us, but okay, I'll tell her. Yeah. Okay.
All right, keep on
Uh,
freezing. Keep on freezing.
all right.
Okay, I apologize. He's going to come and hopefully we can fix this problem because I see it's a recurring problem. Okay, so basically all I said was that they would go and process they would have to do minimal processing. Okay, so in addition to this food being something that was already prepared, I'm sorry, I just keep on freezing like every 2 minutes. Maybe I should just go on a hotspot. In addition to the food already being prepared for them, or the raw material being prepared for them, because that's what man means. There's another aspect of man that was that indicated a certain comfort level that the people could have with this food. It wasn't a very exotic food. In fact, it was the opposite of an exotic food. Let's look together at the Gemara in Yoma. V'haya tamo ketam lishad hashamen. This is a verse that because of time, I'm not going into, but it was mentioned above in one of the sources in Shmot, in Bamidbar, that this is the flavor of the man was like lishad hashamen. Now, this is a difficult verse because lishad only occurs once in the entire Chamisha Chumshei Torah, and that's in Numbers 11. So what does that word mean? It tasted like lishad hashamen is translated here as rich cream. Shaman is clearly rich and fatty, and lishad seems to be some kind of a almost dairy type of richness. Apropos cheesecake. Amar Rav Avahu, ma shad zetinok toem ba kol kama ta'amim. Just like the breast. Now you see here, lishad then would be related to breast milk. The infant will taste all kinds of tastes from breast milk. This we know for not only anecdotally, but scientifically, that whatever the mother eats is catalyzed and absorbed into the breast milk and then is transmitted to the child. Af Haman, this is a familiar midrash to many of us, kol zman sheYisrael ochlinoto motzin bo kama ta'amim. It was this magic food that when the Israelites would eat from this prepared food, then it would be already, it would taste as per their wishes. Sounds very like Willy Wonka-esque. But this is coming from an analysis of this term lishad hashamen, if we go further into this concept of the man being prepared, being as easy to taste as breast milk is for a baby, as perfectly suited to a nation as breast milk would be for an infant, let's look at where the Israelites start complaining about the man. They say, Zacharnu et hadaga asher nochal b'Mitzrayim chinam. We remember the fish, the sardines that we used to eat in Mitzrayim. Et hakishuim, et habatichim, et hachatzir, et habitzalim, et hashumim. Here translated as cucumbers or zucchini, melons, leeks, onions, garlic. We remember all of these umami type flavors that we yearn for and we're not getting, right? There wouldn't be a need to complain if the man was transmitting that. Now, where does Rashi take this? In the same vein that we've been seeing lishad hashamen, essentially rich breast milk. Et hakishuim, amar Rabbi Shimon, mipnei ma haman mishtaneh l'chol davar chutz me'elo. Why did the man change its flavor into anything you wanted? You wanted a bubblegum flavor, you wanted, I don't know, a cheesy flavor, whatever it was, but it wouldn't take on these specific flavors that the Israelites were searching for. Mipnei shehen kashim lamanikot. Here we have the same exact midrashic motif following its way through the verses themselves, because they are damaging to nursing mothers. In other words, we tell nursing mothers, don't eat onions, don't eat garlic, don't eat these strong flavored foods because it will impact the health of the child, or the child will be turned off by these flavors, right? So indeed, this is an age-old truism, that the reason, relating it back to the man, the Israelites were complaining because they weren't getting these deep flavors because the man was essentially breast milk. One more aspect of this prepared food, this perfectly, one can say, innocent or pure food or perfect food for Israel, just as breast milk is perfectly suited to the nutritional needs of the infant. Look at the extension of the Gemara here in Yonah. Dak mechus pas. When the man is described as this flaky substance, Amar Reish Lakish, Zavar shenimoach al pisat hayad, it dissolves easily. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Zavar shenivla b'matayim ba'arba'im u'shmona evarim. This is a substance that was easily synthesized by the nascent nation. It was a substance that the nation could absorb easily, that they literally, the limbs could absorb easily and would not cause any kind of gastric problems, just as breast milk is perfectly suited to the infant. Continue, Rashi there comments on this idea that this man is this perfect food, right? That leaves no waste behind, by saying nivla be'evarim eno yotzei min hame'ayim. It is wasteless. It is a perfectly efficient food. And so this carries over, by the way, into halacha, as paskin by the Shulchan Aruch, but I bring you here the Rambam in Mishnah Torah, in Hilchot Kriyat Shema, where we know that you have to have a certain environment when you engage in Devarim Shebekdusha. When you are saying Shema, for instance, you can't be in the presence of foul odors. But what constitutes a foul odor? Well, if it's a baby who's nursing at his mother's breast and he soils his diaper, then that is not considered to be a foul odor, because again, this same idea of perfectly suited food that would leave no waste and doesn't cause any kind of wastefulness or unpleasantness. Okay, so in the 15 minutes that we have left, I'd like to extend our discussion here from man, which I've rushed through to try and build a concept of a food that is prepared for the Israelites. It's most easily absorbed by them. It took on any flavor that they wished, except for the harsher flavors. It was perfectly suited to their position and their developmental stage when they were under the leadership of Moshe. And that is why the Gemara in Ta'anit will say that Moshe is integrally and intimately linked to Man. Let's look together. Meitivi, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Shlosha Parnasim Tovim Amdu Yisrael. There were three who sustained Am Yisrael. The Eluhin, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, in the wilderness experience in Yetziat Mitzrayim, leading up to the entrance into the land of Israel. Israel had three leaders. V'shlosh matanot tovot nitnu al yadam. And they provided for three different essential elements that the nation needed. Be'eluhein, be'er, v'anan, uman. The well and the cloud of the pillar of cloud, protective element, and the man. Be'er b'zchut Miriam. The be'er was in the merit of Miriam. Amud anan b'zchut Aaron. Aaron, in the merit of Aaron, Israel had the pillar of cloud. Man b'zchut Moshe. Man was due to the leadership of Moshe. And so it would follow that we're going to find in another context in the Gemara, in Masechet Kiddushin, that when Moshe passed, then the man ceased. B'shiva ba'adar met Moshe, upasak man milered. Because they were so intimately linked, when Moshe died, then the man ceased, and it lasted up through when the Karban Omer was brought. So yes, Rabbi Kalman, I do slightly mention the Omer here. Up through the 16th of Nisan was where the leftover man managed to sustain the nation when they entered into Israel, into the land of Israel. Now, Moshe and Man is not just a concept that's developed by the Midrash. It is a concept that is strongly developed by the Midrash, but of course, all Midrash has its roots in text. And so here, when everything now that we know about Man and the nature of Man is related back to the nature of the leadership of Moshe through these verses that we're about to examine together. When the nation complained about the taste of Man, the context there was that we want meat. We don't want Man anymore. It's not providing that umami, onion, garlic taste that we need. And Moshe has had it. And this is what he has to say. Ha'anochi hariti et ha'am hazeh. Was I pregnant with these people? Did I produce these people? Or that's how it's translated, but it's literally harayon. Did I conceive these people? Im anochi yelidatihu. Did I give birth to these people? Ki tomar elai se'ehu b'chekecha kasher yisacho omen et hayonek. That you should tell me, God, that I should carry them in my bosom like a nursemaid carries a suckling infant, ala to the land that you promised them. Moshe is saying, I am tired of nursing these people. These people are very, it's like, the mother who is up every 2 hours. You just reach a point where it's where you can't take it anymore. And that is Moshe's statement of great distress. But clearly Moshe is related here, relates to Am Yisrael as the nursemaid, as their mother, as their caregiver in the most intimate sense. And so of course the man is going to be related to Moshe, because the man is this essential, simple, perfect, already synthesized food that a nascent infant Israel needs to sustain themselves. Now we'll see this idea of Moshe as nursemaid carried over in the Midrashic imagination in other contexts as well. If anyone has an art scroll, Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, then all you have to do is open and read through the art scroll translation, because the art scroll chooses Rashi's translation. Now, clearly, the pshat here is a love story between a man and a woman. Your breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle, browsing among the lilies. But Rashi there is going to base his entire Perush on the Midrash. Shnei Shadayich means specifically Moshe and Aaron. What are who represent the nurturers, the suppliers, the sustainers of Israel? Moshe and Aaron. Mash hashadayim halalu maleim chalav, just as breasts are filled with milk, kach Moshe v'Aaron mimal'im Yisrael min haTorah. So Moshe and Aaron filled Israel with the Torah. And so if we take this back in the 10 minutes that, or even the 8 minutes that I have left here, if we take this back to the initial midrash that led us down this midrashic rabbit hole to begin with, the Mechilta. And we remember that the topic here is that the Torah was only given over to be expounded by those who ate of the man. Then I think that there is a deeper lesson here to be learned than just that in the context of one's life has to, is best served. His Torah is best served if he has imin kemach in Torah, if he has some material security. Let's see how we can take it in a slightly different direction. When the Israelites were to come to Moshe, and they would say to Moshe, in this instance, and I bring you an example here about Pesach Sheni, right? That the Israelites said there's a lot of us who can't keep the Karban Pesach because we're rendered impure, because we're in context with, in the content, we're in touch with Tumat Hamet, with something that's going to render us impure. And what are we going to do? And what does Moshe reassure them with? Vayomer lehem Moshe, don't worry. Imdu ve'eshma'a ma yitzaveh Hashem lechem. Just wait here. I'm going to go check with God, and I will get right back to you. And Rashi has the most amusing turn of phrase. Amar lehem imdu ve'eshma kitamid hamuvtach l'shmo mipi rabo. Right, like he's just a Talmud. He's a Talmud muvhak. He's Talmud muvtach, that he has he's on speed dial with his Rebbe, with Hakadosh Baruch Hu, who can give him any answer that he wants. Ashrei lud ha'isha shekach muvtach. Fortunate is the woman who gives birth to one who has such security. Whenever he wanted, he would have God's ear. He'd be able to speak to the Shechina, and that is exactly what Moses provided to the Israelites in the Midbar. He provided them synthesized, easily digestible, efficient, harmless, simple sustenance. There was a direct line from God to Moshe and Moshe to the people. There was very little work that they had to do. But as the people grow and as they get older, and we know this from looking at ourselves and our developmental trajectory and our children, then you reach a point where mother's milk isn't sufficient anymore, and you want to explore on your own, and you want to deepen your relationship with the world, and you have to leave your mother's bosom and move on forward. And what is the context in which this happens? It was a search for meat. For all those, we do eat meat on Shavuot, not exclusively, but perhaps this is a good reason to eat a little bit of meat, where you have the Israelites saying, enough with the man, enough with Moses's leadership. It's just, and I'm conflating the two here. We're too suffocated. We need that independence. Mi yachilenu basar. Who's going to give us the meat, the onions, the garlic? We need all of this. And this is where Moses responds with, I've been their nursemaid and now they don't want me anymore. It's time for them to be weaned and to go on to something else. And how does God respond to this? He doesn't say, I'm going to give them meat. What does he say? Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Esfa li shivim ish miziknei Yisrael, asher yadata ki hem ziknei ha'am v'shotrav, v'lakachta otam el ohel moed v'yityatzvu sham imach. Now gather 70 elders, and they will stand there with you, and I will diversify. I will allow now for there to be more access to Torah. So it won't just be through you. And it'll be through numerous avenues that Israel can reach Torah and can reach me through Torah. And then immediately afterwards, tell the nation, Ba'achaltem basar, that they shall have access to meat. In other words, meat symbolizes the antithesis of milk. Meat symbolizes that which is more complex, more, if you will, distant and difficult and hard to digest, but oh so worth it. I'm sorry if there are any vegetarians here, but as a carnivore, I have to say that yes, oh so worth it, that we all crave and we all naturally move away from mother's milk to more complex flavors in the same way that we move away from the simple bikiut of the Torah into more complexity and more depth. And we go a little bit deeper into the Yam Shel Torah. So I'll just in the, and I see I do have 3 more minutes left, 2.5. I will, okay, 3. I want to show you something which I think is quite astounding. If you will recall, 70 elders were chosen to represent the continuum of Torah, the dissemination of Torah, so that Moses would not have to bear the entire nation. It was the weaning of Torah, as it were. There were 2, though. There were 72 who were chosen in total, because 6 from each tribe, and there were allowed to be 70, and 2 then were knocked off. Just read the Rashi there. We don't have time for that right now. But there were 2 who did not join the 70. If you recall, what are their names? Eldad and Medad. 2 of these elders remained in the camp, and they began to prophesy. What do those names mean? Eldad and Medad. It means to the nipple and from the nipple. Dad means nipple. And so essentially, Eldad and Medad were were symbolizing this weaning that Am Yisrael, this process of weaning that Am Yisrael was going through in this event of moving from the manna milk to the slav basar, to the quail meat. And that is a process that, and here is where I'm going to end, and I'm not going to read the Tanchuma inside because we don't have time, but that is a process that each of us individually as Am Yisrael are meant to undergo, where we are meant to enjoy our cheesecake and enjoy the milk. And Shavuot is a time to go back to the simplicity of the man, to the tmimut, to the innocence of our mother's bosom, to the Torah that is easily synthesized, to the Torah that is entirely emunah based, and Torah that we can easily understand. But we transition, and perhaps even on Shavuot, we should be making a certain transition from the manna milk to the more sophisticated and satisfying umami of the slav, of the quail, the meat, and mirror the same transition that Am Yisrael themselves went through. So with that, I wish you all a Chag Sameach. Enjoy your cheesecake, and if you're going to have roast beef, then please enjoy that as well.
Thank you very much, Tamar. Thank you. And by the way, Tamar speaks every Monday. She has done 4 parts of an ongoing series, but on the 12 Shvatim and their Nachalot in Israel. In other words, what's the connection between the personality of Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, etc., and where they live in Israel? It's a very fascinating series. That's Monday mornings at 11 o'clock, going all through the summer and probably beyond, because like usual, things take a little longer than we planned for them to take. But Vakasha. So I do want to encourage people to come. And Tamar, you can leave now. And you already made your cheesecake, I know. Eat the meat, barbecue, enjoy. Thank you. Chag Sameach. And we'll start Gila, Rabbanit Gila. We'll start in 30 seconds. There you are. We made you co-host. Okay. Hello. Let people stretch for half a minute, and then we'll get started.
Tamar's Kiddush on Eldad and Medad matches my Kiddush about Lushad Hashamin being the breast from which oil is produced.
Absolutely. That's the word, that's what shad means, shadayim. So that's why Lishad, which is a hapax legamina, it only occurs once in the entire Torah.
Have you seen that as an explanation for the use of milchik?
Maybe. I mean, back to the purity of the milk,
Have you seen it?
That was last night.
Oh, now we
Gershon,
have
because
that.
you're in California, got to listen to Dina Berkowitz's shir. I know it was still Shabbos where you were, although she did not mention that reason. But we'll have to go. We're pressed for time. We can always at
Bye, everyone.
11:15 afterwards. Thank you, Tamar, and the pleasure to welcome back Rabbanit Gila Vakasha. We'll give you an extra minute. You can go at 9, whatever, 10:15 and 48 seconds. Vakasha.